Welcome to NEXTGames Dungeon Series. Today we'll be covering Lair of Maarselok, solo on normal mode with our Dragonknight. Now this can be one of the more annoying runs to take on solo, not so much due to the challenge, but mainly due to the annoying fodder enemies you fight between the bosses, and the bosses themselves, that even though they aren't overly challenging, each have a mechanic that can easily end your run with a single hit. So you must know what to look out for on each boss and be ready to act at any time. Despite this, if you need the skill point or any of the armor sets dropped in this dungeon, you're going to need to get the win. So let's talk about what's involved with each of the 5 bosses that you must take on in this run. Now the first boss of the zone is Selene. To begin the fight, you will first be taking on Selene's Claws, the bear that you see me fighting right now. Now the bear has 2 main attacks that you need to look out for. The first is the bear's heavy attack. When you see him readying this, you must dodge out of the way, as it will one-shot most non-tanks, even if blocked. Now the second ability is Cleave, which can do massive amounts of damage, but is easily avoidable by staying outside the red frontal area of effect zone in front of the bear itself. Now while avoiding both of these abilities, get your damage in as quickly as possible until the second enemy of the fight spawns, Selene's Fangs, the spider which you see me fighting right now. Now the spider has 2 main abilities as well. Just like with the bear, the spider will often use a heavy attack that will one-shot most players. You again want to dodge this anytime you see it being readied, and be sure to always save enough stamina for those dodges. Now the second thing that you're going to see when fighting Selene's Fang is small spiders that will spawn around the arena throughout the fight. Now you want to try and take these out with AoE damage while you continue to get your main damage in on the large spider of Selene, being sure to block any of those heavy attacks that you see being readied. Now after the spider is dead, we are finished with this boss on this difficulty. Now in hard mode, Selene herself will spawn at the end of that fight and must be killed. You and your group must always be ready to stun her channel ability during this final mode, as not doing so will kill everyone very quickly. She also has a poison directional attack that players need to make sure is faced away from the rest of the group, and a crackling pop ability that will toss players into the air if it's not dodged. Now all members of the group should consistently be ready to interrupt her in this final phase to achieve success. Now once Selene is defeated, you will be on to the second boss, which you see me taking on right now. This brings us to boss 2, called Azureblight Lurcher. Now this boss can take some time to defeat, as you must deplete his entire health bar 3 times. But fortunately, he has access to the same abilities in each of those phases, so as long as you are doing fine at the start of the fight, you should be able to carry through that same strategy until the end. Now the abilities that you're going to see include a breath attack that Maarselok himself will do from above you. This not only does massive damage to you, but also enrages the Lurcher main boss, so be sure to both stay out of it and keep the Lurcher out of it if at all possible. The next ability we'll discuss is the Lurcher is going to use a heavy attack, just like the previous boss, that can easily one-shot most players. Due to this, I recommend dodging it if at all possible, but at the very least, you must block it or you will die. Now the next ability to discuss is the one that makes most players lose this fight, and that is the Drain ability. Now this ability will put several red circles on the ground around one of the players fighting this boss. Now these red circles will drain both health and deplete their resources. Now the trick with this mechanic is to not run around too much, and to instead simply run in a circle around the main boss itself, while finding a safe spot while not being on top of these red circles to still get your damage in to that main boss while you wait for those red circles to disappear. Now the last thing you must know to deal with this fight is the adds. Now they must be defeated to get to the next phase of the fight, and if they are ignored, they can quickly overwhelm you, so be sure to take them out as soon as they spawn. Now it will slow down your fight, but it's going to make it much safer in the long run. Now that's about all you need to know to take this one on. You can see my example of how I'm taking it on right here. Now once you feel you have the strategy down, feel free to jump ahead to our next boss, Azureblitght Cancroid. We'll talk again then.
You must be laughing when you see my
Now this brings us to our third boss, Azureblight Cancroid. Now this boss is pretty unique in how we have to defeat him, and it's where many will get stuck, so let's delve into all the things that can happen when taking this one on. Now the first thing you need to keep in mind on this boss is that there will be a blue circle around them for the majority of the fight. If this circle is up, you must not go inside of it. If you do, it will more than likely lead to your death within moments. Now you can only go within the circle and damage the boss during small periods of time during the fight when you get that blue circle to drop. More on how we get that blue circle to drop shortly. First, let's talk about what you're going to be dealing with while you're waiting to drop that shield. First, a Lurcher ad will continually spawn during this fight and chase you. It is powerful and must be your main focus. Now like all previous bosses, he has access to a heavy attack that if it lands will kill most players even if blocked, so you want to be ready to dodge it if you see it being readied. He can also throw rocks at you if you get out of the range of his melee attacks, and these can deal a good amount of AoE damage if it lands, so if you're out of range, be ready to dodge this if at all possible. Now his light attacks will actually hit pretty darn hard for a light attack, and even inflict curse. So in general, you want to make sure that you block all incoming attacks from the Lurchers. Now the Lurcher also has access to a Stomp ability that places a large AoE spreading circle on the ground that will remain for a period of time. Now if you stand in this, you will die within a few moments, so you want to continually keep the Lurcher moving around the battlefield as he drops those circles on the ground so that you can continually find safe areas to fight in. Now while you're dealing with the Lurcher, the main boss tree will also be sending flies in your direction that will be there in the form of AoE circles on the ground along with all these other circles. Be sure to stay out of those circles as well, as they, in addition to the others, will do massive damage if you're within them. Now eventually you will kill that first Lurcher. This will cause him to drop a seed on the ground, and you will need to grab it and throw it at the tree. When done, the blue shield surrounding him will drop for 20 seconds or so, allowing you to get damage in on the main boss. Now save your ultimates for these moments and get in as much damage as you can as quickly as you can when that blue shield is down. Keep in mind that a new Lurcher will spawn as soon as the one that you just killed is defeated, so you will need to be getting in all of this damage while you have this new Lurcher on you. Now once the blue shield goes back up, you want to dodge back out of range of that blue shield and continue to fight this new Lurcher that has spawned. Now once this new one dies, you will get another seed and you can throw it back at the tree and repeat this process as many times as necessary to kill the main boss of the tree. Now there is one final mechanic to this fight, and that is the Stranglers. The Stranglers will start to appear around the battlefield right after the tree shield first goes back up. Now I normally recommend fighting the Lurcher on top of these Stranglers when possible so that your AoE damage is killing both. Not doing so will cause the Stranglers' numbers to continue to grow and become a major problem after a few rounds of the shield dropping. Now there's a lot going on in this fight, but once you get used to the flow of abilities, it's not overly challenging. Here we are at the fourth boss, Maarselok, the first of two encounters with him that we need to beat in order to finish this dungeon. Now this is definitely the longest fight in the dungeon, and if you're not ready with what you need to deal with, it can take you much longer than even you see me doing it here. Now once you are prepared for all of the stuff that's going on that's going to be thrown at you, it's similar to the other fights in the dungeon though, so it should be very doable once you get used to the mechanics. Let's go into what this one looks like. First, there will be a good number of ads that you will need to deal with during this fight, so let's begin with those. The first one is Horvers. These will continually crawl towards Selene at the center of the battlefield for the entire run. Now you don't need to kill them and instead just need to run past them to trigger them to explode. You need to be sure to stay on top of this mechanic, as Selene is who is sending spiders up to Maarselok to annoy him. Now this is what will allow you to get him down to you so that you can then damage him. Now if the spiders are allowed to continually stun her, the fight will never end. Next, there will be Stranglers that spawn near the wall that the spiders climb. These Stranglers will kill the spiders, which again will make the fight go on forever, so your main focus needs to be both Selene's Horvers and the Stranglers killing her spiders that she's sending. Now in addition to this, several spiders, hounds, bears, and lurchers will spawn continually throughout the fight. You need to take these out quickly and be sure to block any of the heavy attacks you see bears or lurchers readying, as it can easily one-shot you, as it has done in the previous bosses. Now AoE is key to this fight, and being able to take out all of these adds efficiently and without becoming overwhelmed. Now throughout the fight, Maarselok will use 2 abilities in addition to all these things going on. The first is when he will shout Fuss Ro Da, which knocks you across the room if not blocked, and an AoE ability that should be blocked if at all possible, as it will deal a good amount of damage to you if you stand in its range. Now once the spiders have annoyed Maarselok enough, he will come down and you will be allowed to damage him for 20 seconds, as you see me doing here. This is similar to the tree boss. You want to get in all of your damage as quickly as you can, using your things like ultimates here if at all possible. He will then fly back up and sit on the ledge, and the cycle will repeat. Now if you can do enough damage, you can take him out in 3 cycles, but most soloers and some groups will require 4 to 5 cycles to take him down entirely. Now a Lurcher will always spawn as soon as Maarselok flies back up to his ledge, and this Lurcher will be enraged, so be sure to take him out fast and don't let any of those heavy attacks land on you, or it'll spell the end of your run. That's about all you need to know to take this one on. I'll let you watch the rest of this fight from here, and once you think you have the pattern down, feel free to skip forward to the 5th and final fight, where I'll be speaking again.
escape, I'll hunt you to the ends of the world.
It really hurt him. This crazy plan might actually work.
Now this brings us to the final fight in this dungeon against Maarselok. Now the fight is fairly straightforward compared to the other fights that we've done so far in this dungeon. He will have two frontal attacks of Fuss, Ro, Da, and a breath attack. Now both of these must be blocked or dodged or they will do massive damage. Now the next ability is a wing flap ability which will be used if you have hate on his sides and can also do massive damage if not blocked. Now I find it easiest to just stand on his sides and avoid those wing flaps, but really either of those two locations works fine as long as you know what it is you're looking for. Now he will also use AoEs on you from above, so stay out of those red circles, and at different times throughout the fight he will charge at you like you just saw him do there, which will deal a good amount of damage if it hits you and knock you down. So when you see him rearing back on his legs, try and dodge it. Now as with most bosses in this dungeon, there will also be an abundance of adds that may appear. Try to take them out with AoE damage as we have been doing all run long. And keep in mind that lurchers will also commonly spawn if you don't cleanse the curse off you, so be ready to take them out and dodge their heavy attacks if one is present. Now in easy mode, that's mostly all you need to know to deal with this final boss. Just take your time and finish up this challenging dungeon. But on hard mode, however, you have additional abilities to contend with. First, Selene will be present on this hard mode difficulty and must be interrupted if she starts channeling her ability as she did in that first boss. If you don't do this, it's going to be a wipe. Also, there is a majority wins ability where Selene will be called upon to help. This is when you can finally damage her. Once you damage her enough, her shield will drop, and a seed will drop randomly in the dungeon. Players must grab this seed and run to their own pad that you'll see spread throughout the dungeon in order to make it so that you don't spawn a lurcher and make your run even more challenging. That's about all you have to share on this one. I hope you found that helpful. Go ahead and enjoy the rest of the fight, and we'll see you next time.